You want to talk about it?
I'd rather laugh about it.
Let's get a little dark about it.
On the Traumedy Show.
Welcome to the Traumedy Show.
It was like the worst burp that ever
Nope,
burped.
that's the intro.
No!
That's it right there. I'm your co-host, Rachel Wilford.
And I'm your other co-host, Megan Wilford.
Megan has a gas station gremlin story for you to start this podcast off today.
Am I the gas station gremlin?
I think you encountered a gas station gremlin, but maybe someday you will be a gas station gremlin.
I think this story, I am the true gremlin after you hear it.
Oh.
All right. So, this was last week when you were out of town.
Yes, I was
we were
in Washington.
All floundering, not knowing what the heck to do without you.
They picked me up from the airport and they're like, it was Megan, Andrea, and Nicole, shout out my besties. They picked me up from the airport when I got home and they're like, oh, we did this Duffy boat yesterday and it was so fun, but it wasn't the same without you. And Megan's like, we just talked about you the whole time if it makes you feel any better. I'm like, yeah, it does. It's really good for my ego.
We were all on, it was like a impromptu boat ride for our friend Lauren's birthday. We went to a brunch and then we're like, let's go do a Duffy boat. And we all just were like, Rachel's going to have the worst FOMO. And we knew it. And we we were all waiting for someone to post on Instagram first because they didn't want to break the news to you.
Oh, wow, that's really considerate.
And so I think I might have finally texted you and was like, because you were texting me about merch and you were doing all this business shit and I'm like drunk on a boat and I'm like, oh no. And I think I finally broke the news to you that we were on a Duffy boat and you're like, oh, I'm so jealous. Like you were bummed. But then I was like, all right, we can all post on Instagram now.
Rachel knows. It's
Rachel
fine.
knows.
Yeah, I was in Washington for my brother's college graduation. So I was watching a lot of baseball and stuff and getting to see him graduate, which was fun. But yeah, I missed out on the fun.
Being
a good sister, as I always am.
On the way to the Duffy boat, we stopped in the gas station to get... Sorry, I have to burp. Cut that out, Jared.
Jared, cut that out.
I just finished a smoothie. Okay. We stop at the gas station to get some White Claws and I'm being, I don't know, a dork or dancing or doing something stupid. And then there's a meek man behind me and he goes...
A meek man?
There's a man who's been eyeing me in the gas station and he's like, excuse me? And I turn around and then we make eye contact and he goes, oh, I thought you were younger. I thought you were younger.
And now that I see you, since you've turned around, I can see that you are a decrepit old hag.
I was like, I've never felt so old in my entire life. Just this, he thought I was hot from behind. I guess thanks. And then he turns around and sees my decrepit 30-year-old face. And he's like...
Meanwhile, you're like, sir, there's so much Botox. Like, you should have seen this jaw before. You should have seen how old I looked a few weeks
after
ago.
The jawline filler.
Yeah.
Like, tell that to the filler in my cheekbones.
Yeah. Tammy is screaming right now. Oh, this is a good segue for you to formally apologize for your use of scapula in episode 3.
You know what? It wasn't a scapula. It was a cannula.
Oh. Wait, so you looked it up and that's the...
I'm close to positive.
We're spreading more.
I might be spreading more misinformation.
As we do.
But it wasn't a syringe. It was a cannula. So it was like a EULA word.
Okay, so just to put it into context, episode 3, Megan talks about her jaw
filler.
Tammy was elbows deep in your ligaments in your jaw.
Yeah.
And you're talking about how she's got a scapula filler and people responded, like our friend Taylor, who's a nurse, she's like, listen, scapula is a bone in your shoulder.
It's like a muscle in your shoulder or something.
So I'm getting it wrong too.
It's just a body part.
Misinformation flying through this episode.
But it was a cannula, a filler in my jaw. And yet this man was so shocked by my age.
Even after you went through the pain of getting your jaw.
Oh, great. New insecurity unlocked. But
what did you respond to him?
He was very clearly socially awkward. But then, he was like, oh, I thought you were younger. Well, how old are you? And I was like, I'm 30. And he's like, oh, I'm 22. So I'm like, okay. And then he's like, what are you doing today? And I was like, going on. He was like processing if he wanted to continue the asking me out.
Yeah.
Like he was just like, well, what are you doing today? Let me think about it. And then like, we're going on a boat. Bye. And then we leave. And
he started really looking closely at your jaw and was like, you know what? Maybe I will make an exception for this hag.
Yeah. I can see him doing the mental math of like, I'm 22. Well, what are you doing today? Like, maybe you can be my sugar mama.
There's no one else here, I suppose.
So that was, new insecurity. I'll probably get more Botox next week. I am getting lip filler.
You are, yeah, she is.
Now that I have Tammy, I'm just like, what else can we do?
Yeah, Tammy's on speed dial for your face.
Honestly. She gave me a link to some new collagen powder on Amazon. Like,
really?
Yeah.
That's cool. Do we know if she's listening to the podcast?
She likes all of the stories. I think she is.
I'm sure she is.
Shout out to Tammy.
Love you, Tammy.
So we'll have reviews of my lip filler next week, and they'll probably look really swollen.
Ooh! Swollen lips. Next episode. We have some more housekeeping. All right, Wolf Corner. As promised, have some.
It's like my really sad attempt of howling.
It was good. It was
gorgeous. It was cringy. Cut that out, Jared.
I see them coming in the distance. Actually, they're starting to run.
I believe you.
Turn around. Gotcha. Oh my god, Thelonious. Okay, Wolf Corner. As promised, got some fun updates to share on the wolf. So one of them is, so last week we launched Amber's episode on May 1st, and she and I were chatting all day about it, and late that night she sends me a screenshot and she's like, Rachel. And it's the wolf back on Hinge, and he has sent her a match request with a message of, I miss you and I love you.
That's exactly what he did to you.
That's exactly what he did to me. He tried to match with me and he said, I love you, just a few weeks after we had broken up. And it's just ironic that he did that on the day that she released her episode, and there's no way he doesn't know about it.
Yeah.
So it's just like,
also just so weird to be doing that on Hinge.
Yeah. The delusion is delusioning. So there's that. And then the big update that I received a message on Thursday morning from someone that we're going to keep anonymous, but she is a longtime family friend of the Wolves, and somebody that I actually, while he and I were together, I think it was when I was going on, when I had access to his phone finally, and I was able to go on his Instagram, and I was just like scouring things last year when I was starting to find things out. I remember going on his Instagram and seeing, like the people that you interact with the most or look at their stories the most, they're the ones that pop up first.
Yeah.
So I saw her in there on his little story, tab at the top, along with other women. And so it's interesting. Like I had just already had a little feeling that he was doing something maybe. And so this girl reaches out to me on Thursday morning, and she says this. Okay, first off, just want to say I love your podcast so much. Second off, the wolf actually would DM me until I blocked him and called him out for being engaged. I never would respond. I'll send you a screen recording when this message gets accepted. Third off, randomly downloaded Hinge, and the wolf sent me a rose. I only accepted the rose to tell him, you're famous on a podcast now, and I love that podcast. So courageous to tell both of your stories. I commend you both. Keep killing it and exposing these narcissist men. Sending all my love to you both.
I love that.
And I responded, and I was like, oh my gosh, blah, blah, blah. And then she sends me screenshots. And so he responded to her saying, you're famous on a podcast and I love that podcast, and said, haha, yup, you can make fun of me if you want and hate on me. I get it. I know I made a mistake, but there's also a lot on there that's not true.
Oh, I didn't.
You didn't see that when I sent it to you?
I don't think wow. Spoiler alert. I didn't read it.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. You just don't look at anything.
Apparently.
You don't care about me.
I was like, ugh. There was a lot of text flying around that day. I didn't realize that he responded to it.
You had therapy that day too. Yeah.
Oh,
he fully responded to it and said, I know I made a mistake.
Wow.
Just a single mistake. And claiming that there's a lot on here that isn't true.
Okay. So that's his narrative about it.
It's like, interesting.
Is he still sticking to the like grace overlap for 2 months or something 2020 story?
Yeah, maybe.
I made a mistake.
Yeah. Oh, I had another girlfriend for a few months. Like, whoop-de-doo. I don't know. I don't know what he's saying is his mistake and what's not true on here because, like, baby, I have receipts of it all. So what are you saying isn't true?
The fact that people are pointing it out when he gives them a rose on Hinge.
No, it's so perfect. Like, this is the whole.
It's what you wanted.
It's not the whole point, but it's like. It's a benefit because there's no way for him to be like still hiding in the shadows and continuing this behavior. It's like, no, people know.
Yeah.
Sorry. So the other thing that she sent me was the screen recording of all of his messages to her for years, starting in 2019. Damn, girl. Fire emojis, heart eye emojis.
Oh,
there's so many of them and she never responds. A heart.
Ew.
There's like 25 in here probably wishing her happy birthday.
To think that he's doing that to that many other women at the same time. That's just normal behavior to be flooding DMs with.
For years. And she never responds until the very end. She says, aren't you engaged?
Did he respond to that?
And he didn't respond. And then I think that's when she blocked him.
Oh my gosh.
Unreal. So yeah, now we have additional proof of more virtual cheating, virtual flirting with other women. And this is just the first of many, I would assume.
Oh yeah.
They're just gonna keep on coming in and we welcome it, honestly.
Yeah. Our DMs are open.
Our DMs are open for business.
Ooh.
Yep, so that's Wolf Corner.
We left off at me telling my ex about the affair and big emotional break, separating, moving in with you. I think that's where, and then our emotional sentiments afterward. And can I also just say, thank you so much for all the support that we've had since this launched a few days ago. I knew that there would be some, but I was honestly really shocked and really happy with all of the messages that we got. People who felt like they could share things with me, that they could reach out. I know that it's a taboo topic and a lot of us don't talk about it, but I wasn't expecting as many people to reach out and just further affirm that you are not alone. This is a safe space to talk about these mistakes that we've made and what we can do moving forward. And even to bridge that gap of maybe someone who's been the person who was cheated on to kind of understand maybe a little bit more of what the other side might be like and vice versa. I just think it has been a really beautiful response so far.
Yeah, you guys have been really, really nice and I think really validating for you in terms of, okay, you made the right decision in sharing this because you had been going back and forth for so many months. And so to get just such a kind, compassionate response and for people, like the goal has already been met. Like you helped people not feel as alone. And there were so many people that reached out to you and they were like, I was the person that needed to hear that. Which is really sweet.
Oof.
So
I remember
it hits.
Talking about it on the podcast and even in therapy of like, if I can help one person feel safe and release some shame and move forward and not feel so alone or judged, and also maybe help someone not make the same mistake as I did. Like those were kind of my goals. That's already been achieved. I had people on both sides reach out and say like, thank you. I've released some shame. Like, and then I've had people say like, I need to rethink
what I'm doing.
Decisions I might be making right now. Like it really is.
It's crazy.
And so affirming that I was supposed to do this. And it's really wild to have this like really intimate secret about myself, just very public. But
I know, and just watch the anonymous numbers climb.
Yeah.
Be like, okay.
Yeah.
Because
now I'm like, all right, this many hundreds of people. At some point, it'll be thousands. Know this detail about me. It's wild, but I also feel calm.
Yeah.
That that's just how it's supposed to be.
No, you've been at peace.
I have been. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you all. To continue the story of where we left off. So we are separated at first, and it was,
I mean, you drove to my house. It was like very late, like midnight or 1 a.m. when you arrived.
Yeah.
Very tearfully. Even that, I'm just like remembering these little things from back then, you know?
I haven't really thought about it a lot because it's a really dark time. And so it's even weird to put myself back into those few days initially right after it happened. I just remember driving home at like 1 a.m., landing in your house and just sobbing on the bed, and you were there with me.
Yeah.
And
I remember you calling a couple friends and telling them over the next couple of days and going on walks. And
yes.
We were having a lot of talks. And
that's right. The next few days, I started my round of confession.
Yeah.
Which was really hard.
Yeah.
Because I didn't, from the get-go, it didn't feel right to tell anybody what happened without telling the whole story. And of course, I had been keeping it a secret from everyone except you up to that point. So no one in my life even knew about what had happened over Christmas, and that no one knew that we were in marriage counseling. Like no one knew at all. So then it was like, okay, I got to call this friend. I got to call this friend. And it was really difficult too, because we had a lot of mutual friends, shared friends together, and having a really close married couple as your friends, and then they break. And then especially on the onset of me talking about my affair, but up to that point, I hadn't shared what was going on, that we were even having marriage problems. So then to process like, whoa, Megan and her ex broke up. Like what? It's really hard for friendships at that point. And I wasn't working for, I think like a week. I took a week off just for my own mental health. I told my parents, and I was so nervous to do that.
Yeah.
It just didn't feel right not to tell them. I flew home to surprise my dad for his retirement party.
Dang, like right now, because it was over my birthday
Yeah.
weekend, which, my birthday's tomorrow.
And it was
Crazy.
right after it was like a week after I'd separated. And so I went to his retirement party, and I just remember like, don't cry, Megan, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. And then like as soon as it was over, I was sobbing, and there was a lot of tears in that time. And then my ex and I also had a couple more conversations, and also we started to like establish what our separation would look like. And I think also another detail I'm remembering, I knew I needed a separation, but I was thinking that he might be like, all right, I want a divorce now. I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe partly why I did that in the first place. So when we finally, I think it was like a couple weeks later, we had a scheduled call, and I was really nervous. But it was also a chance for me to more calmly explain why I did it. And I was shocked that he still wanted to make it work. And then I was like, okay, now I have a decision. So we had a tearful conversation. He was, of course, really upset, really hurt. It was a difficult talk, but during the whole separation and us trying to get back together and all of our problems, it wasn't even really about the affair or what happened. And in the end, why we got a divorce has nothing really to do with that. But he said like, it's going to be hard, but I think I can forgive you. And I think we can still make this work if you are open to it, but now you need to decide. And then, so the ball was kind of back in my court. I did ask him if he could move out, because that's also this is what a separation means for me. I need you to move out and be financially independent from me for some time just to see. And I think we decided that we would check in. We had a joint therapy session to talk about what our separation would look like, where we would have monthly check-ins. Like asking you like if you remember.
I don't remember.
I think it was monthly check-ins, or every few weeks or so that we would get.
That sounds right.
I think it was monthly. At first we would get together in person. And then sometimes I think it was over the phone, but it was just to be like, where are you at? How are you doing? Because we still obviously really cared about each other. So it was like this, how are things going? Where's your headspace? And so we were having those check-ins. We did also make it clear that we were, it was important to me that I made it clear that I was acting like I was single during the separation. And that was really hard for him as well. Like he didn't like that I used the word single, but I knew it was important for me to be fully separated at that time.
And just really take advantage of that time apart to make an informed decision.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. So I made that clear that I needed to be single, that I wanted there to be minimal contact. I think at first we were following each other on Instagram, and then we started unfollowing. And then I wonder if the Instagram detectives over those few months, I think some people might have noticed that he and I hadn't posted it all together. Oh, another thing is we stopped cosplaying, of course, because of the separation. And so there was this big question of what are we going to do with the cosplay account? We had a good amount of followers. We had tickets to Comic-Cons that we didn't go to. We lost a lot in that area. But we posted on our cosplay account like, hey, for personal reasons, we just need to take a break. So I took a break from cosplay. I took a break from everything. I lived with you for 2-ish.
It was a couple weeks because
longer than that.
So it was May 6th, right? You came, and then you were only there for a few days, and then you went to Idaho to visit your parents and be there for a little bit. But meanwhile, like while you were there at my house, the wolf and I were addressing our invitations, and I'm begging him to tell me if there's anything else I need to know before we send these out. Like we're full on like doing wedding things, and at the same time, like trying to recover from the Grace information that I had found out at the time that was, not the full truth. And then we go on my bachelorette trip on May 17th. And we're in Tulum for a while, and that's when he messages that other girl. So just to like keep the full context,
the parallels
of both of the
going.
Yep.
So I'm in a weird place that entire summer of being separated, being single for the first time, but you are going through so much. And we go on this Tulum trip, and it's my first time on a trip being single. Like it's a big party town, lots of drinking, lots of partying. It was fun. There was one guy.
Okay, was it the second night or the third night? It was either night 2 or night 3. We go to dinner. Yeah. And so what goes on in Tulum, if you haven't been, is we've never been to, like, you've heard of a dinner party. Yeah. But you've never been to a dinner party until you've been to Tulum and gone to a dinner party. Oh. There are these restaurants that you go to on this beach strip, and the music is bumping, and like there's just so much action going on. Like the waiters are getting you drinks and whatever, and
there's
then
like sparklers,
and they get you up on top of the tables. Yes. They get you up on the chairs with sparklers and shots, and the beat drops and the lights are going and all this stuff. Like it's a wild time.
While
the whole restaurant is involved.
Yell at the waiter ordering your entree.
Like,
I would like the salmon and rice. And you're like, it's honestly incredible.
Oh, it's in my, so there's this video of you and I, it's in my Instagram, in my basically my announcement post of me not marrying the wolf anymore. I say like, because I never posted any pictures from Tulum, because literally after Tulum it was like game over. I was not an okay person. So then when he and I broke up, that was my announcement and I said, plot twist, marrying my friends instead. And so I posted all of the stuff from my bachelorette trip in Tulum. And the very last thing in that carousel is a video of you and I. this night where, so there's this bachelor party that is sitting behind us at this restaurant. And, there's this one guy, we're going to call him Jordan. So he starts talking to me first, and like we vibe on like a friend level or whatever. And then we start basically becoming friends with this bachelor party, and they pull us up on top of their table. You and I go and are on top of this table with the bachelor party, just dancing and having a good time. And there's this video because someone knocked over something on the table.
Oh, for sure it was me.
And Megan and I are on top of this table having a great time. And this guy in the bachelor party with the wig on, he's just like on his hands and knees, like wiping up whatever Megan spilled. And Megan and I are just deep in conversation, laughing, having a great time.
And he's like, I need to make sure these women don't fall and like break their legs.
Oh my God. And Alexis is taking the video, just cracking up, but it's so funny. So Jordan, this is so introducing Jordan now. So Jordan and Megan hit it off on top of this table.
We hit it off on top of this table. He honestly was the biggest goober known to man.
Yeah, it gets pretty funny.
The biggest goober known to man. It immediately was just like, Megan, I love you. Like he tried to jump into our van when we were driving away.
Yes, he did.
I gave him my number. He was trying to meet up with us all day.
Yeah.
Like I almost went home with him and then realized that was not a safe idea at that point. I think I just was so like, I just got like separated and I'm single for the first time. And I was just in this so weird space. But Jordan was very much ready to marry me.
He wanted to take you as a +1 to a wedding in like a couple weeks.
Oh yeah.
From there.
And he was like, are you single? And I'm like, yeah, I separated from my ex-husband like 4 days ago.
Shit.
I also want to caveat, I know it might look a certain way on Instagram or something, or you're like, oh wow, she's already doing whatever with other people. Like almost every night that entire trip, I was kind of sobbing in the pool.
Oh, you were in the van to
I was crying all the time.
Like, yeah, you were crying a lot.
Yeah.
It was chaotic.
It was chaotic.
It was very chaotic.
It was like, oh, this guy, oh, he's cute. Oh, I'm sobbing. Like it always just looks a certain way on Instagram and it's never the full picture.
No, it wasn't. You were never trying to be like disrespectful or anything like that. I think what was happening is you, like I said, you really were just trying to fully dive into this period of separation and be like, what do I want? I need to explore these feelings of wanting to maybe see what things are like with other people in order for me to really know, like, okay, no, do I want to get back together with my husband, or no, is there really something missing and I need to go out into the world and be free.
Pretty much.
That's all it was.
That's all it was. It was just what a fucking weird bachelorette trip, because your best friend and cousin just broke up with my husband and I'm crying and making out with Jordan and having so many emotions. And then on the last night, as you've heard in previous episodes, that's when you find about the wolf.
I think I'm getting married, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm a little insecure because I just found out this big bomb.
Yeah.
And then, the last day of the trip, like, nope, another big bomb dropped. And, Rachel's having a panic attack in the Cancun airport.
Yep. And it was weird for me because, as you know, when you've been with someone for so long, you are texting them all the time. And I remember that feeling the first, like coming home from, because we had pretty good communication and always be like, hey, just got home, love you, good night, etc. Like you'd always kind of check in with a partner. It was the first time I could ever remember in my life not having someone to check in with.
Yeah.
It was incredibly lonely. Like it was those feelings of when everything was blowing up with you and the wolf, I was like, who do I tell? Not that it was, but normally I would tell my ex and be like, oh, wow, all of this is happening. So it was a weird, lonely feeling that has persisted, the entire summer and even to now in some ways and I know that you understand it as well.
Yes.
And in so many ways, we are each other's boyfriends now.
Yes, exactly. Like those communication patterns when you end a long-term relationship, like not having that rhythm is really weird.
So anyone
so
who's
we kind of
going
subbed each other in
a breakup, especially after a long time, it's so weird to be like, oh, I was texting this person good night, good morning. We were talking all the time. It's At least we had the same thing at the same time, and we just literally subbed each other in.
Pretty much.
We already would talk all the time, but
I mean, since we were like 10 years old, we already were.
Somehow became even more so.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we get back from Tulum. I'm still living with you for a good 2 or 3 weeks.
Well, I think at that point, your ex had moved out of the apartment.
Okay.
And so you stayed with me for a few days, I think, because I was unwell.
Right.
And then I think you went back to your apartment, and that was really strange for you too. I remember like you had never lived alone.
I hadn't ever lived alone, period. Like even roommates, I hadn't even just had my own room.
Yeah.
Because I had roommates all through college, like shared a room with my roommates, and then went straight to being married. So yeah, my first time living alone ever, which was wild. And you are going through crisis. This is when the Cousin Crisis hotline started.
Yes! Cousin Crisis hotline. What's your crisis?
Wow.
So Megan and I would say we were on the phone every hour.
Every hour?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Every hour, or like I had heard from you every hour.
The communication was constant. Like there was really no lull unless one of us was in therapy.
Yeah.
Like we were just constantly talking because my stuff was unraveling rapidly. And you were going through your own thing of like there were updates every hour. So yeah.
Every hour, and there was usually a longer debrief in the evening.
Yes.
So there was always updates.
At this point too, I didn't even say this in my episode 2. When we got back from Tulum, the wolf and I also separated. I kicked him out of the house for like 2 weeks. I know I didn't say that. I asked him to leave and go stay at his parents' house because I needed space in order to decide what to do. Because then at that point, I had found out obviously about the DMs that were going on, the virtual affairs, and that the grace timeline went on up until he proposed a second time. So I had a lot to think about. And so he was not living at the house. And so I was also living alone in our house. So you and I were both living alone. And like... yeah, communication stuff with the wolf was weird and bad too. So yeah, we were just constantly talking all the time. And so one of us would call and the other would answer and be like, Cousin Crisis hotline, what's your crisis? Is that it?
Yes, that was it. Yeah. Cousin Crisis hotline, what's your crisis?
What's your crisis?
That was every day, all the time.
Yep.
We would just have so much to debrief about. And you deciding, I mean, a lot of the conversations too were like, excuse me, I keep burping on this episode. It's from the smoothie. Yeah. A lot of the
it's the shame just expelling from your body.
Like, I'm releasing it. Of you deciding if you wanted to stay with the wolf or not. And then also me deciding what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
It was so much of like,
big decision time.
What are we doing? How do you feel about it today? And like some days I'd be like, all I want to do is go back to my ex.
Yeah.
And you'd feel the same. And then the next
it would
day,
change in a couple hours.
It would change so fast.
Oh God.
The amount.
I'm remembering that time. It's just so chaotic.
The experiences we experienced in like 4 months. I mean, up into this entire year, but especially that summer. Oh, I got like 4 tattoos.
Yeah. Yes, you did.
I got a lot of tattoos. I was meeting a lot of new people. I was dating a lot. I ended up dating a lot of Wills.
This is just like my favorite.
Yeah.
It started with one. And then you would like meet another. And interesting. That one's name is also Will.
And then there'd be another.
It in some way, like either the last name or the first name or the like there was some variation of Will.
Yes.
Somehow. Honestly, like up until now, really. Like from then until now, it just was like, oh, okay. Yep. Of course your name is Will.
Every new person that I talked to. I mean, it just was wild that they ended up showing up in my life. So we had to have all these code names of the variations of the Wills.
Yeah.
And we're not going to go into those code names.
No. But they're so funny. Oh my God. Yeah. It was the Marathon of the Wills.
Marathon of the Wills.
When there was a will, there was a way. We were just like always coming up with all these Will jokes. It was great.
It was great. I was also dating some women and exploring my sexuality there, and also the Wills and
the women and the Wills.
The women and the Wills.
Oh my God.
And it was a needed summer. I think, I mean, it was a lot.
There's Will in our last name too. You're Megan Wilford. We just had this. We've never put that together before.
Megan Wilford.
That's why you're attracting them all.
Oh my God.
Where's mine? I've never
Where's your Will?
dated or anything.
Are
with
there
a
any
Will.
Wills who would like to date Rachel?
Will the real
the real Will.
Please stand up.
What?
My next fiance is a Will.
Wow. Wilford.
Yeah.
I can't.
How did we not ever think about that before?
I don't know.
I don't even know what you were saying before this. I literally just
No,
had
me
this
neither.
like out of body experience, and I was like,
Yeah.
Wilford.
Wilford.
That's why.
Okay. Cousinmoon. Let's talk about that.
Okay. So then fast forward, it's the summer of the Wills. It's the summer of the Chaos Cousins. Fast forward to I decide to leave the Wolf June 29th, and I immediately call Megan that morning and I say, will you go on my honeymoon with me? To which you respond, absolutely. And
Absolutely, I will.
yep. And this was June 29th. And we were supposed to leave. Well, I was supposed to get married July 28th. So I think we left like July 30th or something. It was a couple days later. And so you buy your plane ticket and we fly out separately. And I remember just like, I think you landed in Germany and I landed in England. And then we're just like looking at each other's locations like on another continent and just like, oh, I see your face in Germany. Like that was fun. And then,
gosh.
so we started so I had this whole honeymoon planned and just subbed you in essentially.
Yeah.
And what was cool is when I booked all the hotels and everything because of course.
Of course. Yeah.
And so when I booked these hotels, I had messaged them and been like, it's our honeymoon. Like if there's anything cool you can do, that'd be great. So basically everywhere we went in Europe, they were like, we gave you the best room for your honeymoon. And Megan and I are like, oh my God, if only you knew we were cousins.
I know. I love just like us just pretending. The amount of people who thought we were lovers.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I mean, for our whole lives.
Our whole lives.
We're related. So no.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. But yeah, so we started in Geneva, Switzerland. And then we went to, we'll go into more detail on each of these places, but the timeline is Geneva, Switzerland. And then we went on a day trip to Chamonix, France. And then we went to the Swiss Alps and stayed in Lauterbrunnen. And then we hopped over to Lake Como. And then we hopped to Milan. And then back to Geneva to come home. So we were over there for a total of 17 days, I think.
Yeah.
This was the first time that you and I have traveled, the two of us, I think, right?
Yes.
Honestly, I never really thought about that before.
I don't think we had traveled together like that.
No.
I hadn't done a friend vacation like that. I'd only ever been with my partner or with my family.
Yeah.
I had never
Or
just
like
been
group
like
trips, like
travel
Tulum
with
or
my
whatever.
girls.
Yeah.
Oh, let me tell you. Go on a vacation with your best friend.
Make it a long one.
Make it a long one. Like that trip was so needed.
This is the best trip we've ever done, ever.
It was so, I can't even describe it. It was so needed for both of us.
Oh, yeah.
And at that time, we were posting a lot on Instagram, which was also really fun.
Yeah.
Because you and I are Instagram gremlins.
Yeah.
And I think like we're also on the same page. I'm never gonna be like, Rachel, you're on your phone too much.
No.
Because we also were loving sharing these updates and kind of making these stories for us to go back and to watch and for other people.
Well, we also knew that
to.
we're like, okay, not to like sound like a narcissist right now, but we were kind of the moment because it was like everybody knew that I had just ended my second engagement to this person and didn't really know why. And so it was like, and vice versa. Like,
well, I hadn't announced yet.
That's true. That's true.
But people were catching on.
Yeah. And it was like, you're going on my honeymoon with me. Like, it was just, we knew it was very entertaining. So we kind of leaned into it.
Some people could tell. I think like some people could tell that my ex and I weren't together anymore at that point.
We just fully leaned into it and we're like, you want to be entertained? We shall entertain you.
We were entertaining everybody, but truly just ourselves.
Truly ourselves. We were having a fucking blast.
Oh my gosh. Every night we would rewatch our Instagram stories.
Yeah.
This sounds so narcissistic.
I know it does. But I think it was more of just like, I remember I wrote this down, and it was when we were in Lauterbrunnen in the Swiss Alps. I also, during this trip, I couldn't sleep. Like because I think I was just so excited to be there or something. I don't know. I was only sleeping like a few hours a night. Yeah. I was getting up really early and having time by myself. I was going on walks alone. I was journaling a lot and just having a lot of self-reflection. And I remember waking up really early one morning in Lauterbrunnen and sitting on our deck with our waterfall view in the Swiss Alps. Yeah. And I was sitting there journaling, and it was so cold. And I remember writing down, I haven't felt like this much of myself in so long. Like it just, I felt like I was finally coming back to myself, and it was such this, I don't know, it was this cool feeling. And so I think it was just this very like self-discovery time. And so we were just loving, I don't know, just like watching ourselves back, I think is why we did that. And also it was like a fun, like digital diary too. Yeah. Like it's so fun to look back on. It is. You can go watch our Instagram highlights for like 20 minutes. It's just so fun. We had the best time. We had so many adventures.
Some people, to each their own, but some people be like, oh, you weren't present. But in some ways I felt like we were hyper present because we were recording and making these stories, and you and I would just laugh about it and watch it. And then it was so fun to be able to have our friends and family watch along with us and take along this whole journey that we're going to post some content on our Traumedy Show page as well. But to dive in, I guess, into a few of those locations.
Yeah. Let's start specifically
Geneva was great. I think it was a good soft launch into the trip because there wasn't as much to do in Geneva. It was weirdly so empty the night we got there.
Yeah, it was.
Remember
it was
that?
Like eerie.
It was a big holiday, so nobody was there.
Yeah.
So it was like we were walking around the streets of Geneva, and there was just like,
is everybody?
Hello?
Yeah. It felt like a zombie apocalypse. Yeah. It was really odd.
You were texting your ex-boyfriend a lot of the trip as well.
Who we're going to have an episode about.
We are going to have an episode about that. Don't worry.
Yeah. He wasn't my boyfriend at the time, but months later he became
like your situationship at the time.
Yep.
Anyway, so Geneva, not much exciting things to report.
We went to the beach. Yeah, I feel like Geneva was our least favorite. Yeah. It was definitely like the soft launch for sure. They gave us a cool room with a view. So yeah, I was waking up every morning and just like sitting out on the balcony. And then
Chamonix was cool. We got recommended to go on a day trip to Chamonix by it's a girlfriend of one of the Wolf's friends. Shout out if you're listening to this. She gave us the recommendation to go to Chamonix, France for the day. So we forgot our passports. Yeah. Is that what you were going to say? I just remember we just had that same memory.
Yeah. So we hop on this bus, and I think we like even barely made it. And on the way we had to walk kind of far to get to this bus. And on the way, we realized that we forgot our passports. And it was one of those things like, do we turn around and try to get our passports and miss this bus? Or do we chance it and get on the bus knowing we're going to go to another country without our passports? And so we're like, YOLO, I guess we're going to make our bus that we paid money to get on. So we get on this bus, and we just are like, fingers crossed we can come back.
The guy driving the bus, like, are we going to get in trouble? And he was like,
yeah. And we're like, okay.
He was just kind of like, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
You might get stuck in France. So then we had this, we were posting on our stories, and we were like, well, we might get stuck in France. Like, we just didn't
People
care.
Were worried.
I know. I mean, we were worried.
We were worried.
But we also were like, but we have to for the plot. Yeah. Like, we kept just being like, well, okay, let's just see.
We're just going to YOLO.
So we YOLO'd out to France. It was such a pretty day.
Oh my gosh.
We had brunch on top of this cliff mountain?
Yeah, so we took the it was like a gondola, but what did they call it?
Cable cars.
A cable car. We took multiple cable cars to get to the very top. We're in the French Alps now. We basically took a day trip to the French Alps. The town was so freaking cute. Like, I can't even describe it. The town of Chamonix was so cute. And yeah, we went to the very, very tip top, and the view was insane. And we sat there and had food. And then we also got crepes that day in town, which was fun. I think we just like ate a lot. And then we got drunk off of the, it wasn't an Aperol Spritz. It was
St. Germain Spritzers or something.
Yeah, it was something with a G. Shoot, we looked this
Hugo
up.
Spritz.
Hugo Spritz.
Yeah,
Hugo Spritz.
we got drunk on Hugo Spritz
while watching this band play.
And then we realized our bus back to Geneva was leaving in like 6 minutes.
Yeah.
So we were sprinting. You were sprinting.
I was like power walking
through
the streets of Chamonix. Yeah, we were drunk running, trying to get to our bus. And then we get on the bus in time, and then we're just drunk on this bus on the way back home, just hoping they're not going to stop us and ask for our passports. And so there's this video of us when we get to the checkpoint, and we're just like, okay, are they going to pull us over? Because they kind of started slowing down, and then they just didn't pull over our bus, and we scooted on through to Switzerland.
Drunk white girl fugitives. getting across the border from France to Switzerland.
Yeah.
But we made it.
It was so fun.
I feel like a lot of things went our way that trip.
Totally.
Some things not, but for the most part, it was like
luck was on our side.
The
Lord was looking out.
And then we made our way to Lauterbrunnen in the Swiss Alps.
So also I want to say Meg was Nav queen of this whole trip.
Yes.
Meg was doing all the trains, the buses, and you crushed it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So
we had a really good division of labor.
Yes, we absolutely did.
We were like, oh, excuse me. We just had really good roles.
Yes.
And I feel like so much better than in a heterosexual relationship. I was like, wow, like we had such good balance. I feel like we just traveled really well together. Yeah. But I was Nav queen. Easy. You had already booked all the hotels. What were you doing?
I don't know. I don't remember now.
But it was balanced, but now I forgot.
It was. Now we're just forgetting what I brought to the table. Comedy for sure. I don't know. I'm a piece of shit.
No, it was balanced. I assure you.
I definitely did stuff.
No, you were always the brave one to go talk to anyone too. Huh? Like if anyone, I don't know. It was balanced. Trust us.
It was balanced.
Lauterbrunnen.
Okay, yeah. So we took a couple trains to Lauterbrunnen, which is in the Swiss Alps, and it was basically like in the valley in between these mountains in the Swiss Alps. And we got off the train, and Megan was like, "We're in Disneyland. Like this is like Yoo-hoo Big Summer Blowout vibes."
We said Yoo-hoo Big Summer Blowout. I love how you said that very straight tone. Like
Yoo-hoo Big Summer Blowout vibes. Just all monotone and deep.
Major Yoo-hoo Big. I can't even say it.
Yeah, Yoo-hoo Big Summer Blowout vibes.
It was major those vibes.
And we get to our hotel. So we like walk to our hotel, and we get in there, and they're like, "We gave you the best room with the view." And we're like, "Excuse me." And we walk into our room, and there's just a waterfall right outside our balcony. Yeah. And so that was so sick. It was just very magical there.
It was raining a few days. You got sick one of the days.
Yeah. Oh no. So we did not pack for like rainy winter weather at all.
No.
So luckily, fortunately, we had the day before in Chamonix bought sweatshirts in Chamonix as like fun merch to remember this little town, because otherwise we had nothing of warmth for Lauterbrunnen, in which it was like 45, 50 degrees and raining.
It was so cold the entire time.
So the whole time we're wearing our Chamonix sweatshirts every single day. So just like every picture and video of us, I'm in my same green Chamonix sweatshirt and Meg's in her white one. And it just became this bit. And then we explored that area. We made a lot of friends there too. There was one bar in town.
There was one Horner's Corner.
Horner bar. And there's a picture of me sitting in the corner of Horner. Just vibing. And
the bar had surprisingly good food.
It actually did. And it was like it was very varied as well. Like there was a Thai dish, I
Yeah.
think, and like a burger and like all sorts of stuff. And
It
then
was
they had
great.
that bag of gummies. So they were like, oh, there's a candy bag for like $3 or something.
Yeah.
So when we were sitting in the corner of Horner, we're like, oh, can we get the candy bag? And they give us this bag of like gummies, and we quickly realized that they were like phallic. They were like inappropriate gummies.
I think they were more than just phallic. It was like sexual shaped gummies all over.
Yes. And yes, so many ways. So we just had these like inappropriate
Phallic gummies in Swiss Alps.
We made friends from the Netherlands there and Ireland. Shout out Sam. I do know that we have people from the Netherlands listening, so I wonder if Sam is
Shout
listening.
out Sam.
Yeah, we made some Irish friends there, and then we took the cable cars up to the towns like on top of the mountains.
Yes.
And that was a random wild time. So we took the car up to Murren.
Uh-huh.
And then we walked down to Gimmelwald.
Oh, Gimmelwald. Yes.
Oh, there was the corn dog place. There's a corn dog place. So if you don't know me, I love corn dogs. I have an affinity for corn dogs. They're my bread and butter. They're everything.
Kind of your bit too.
They're everything beautiful in this world and in my life.
Yes.
I live and breathe them. Yeah, it's my bit. I love corn dogs. And in this tiny little Swiss town in the Swiss Alps of Lauterbrunnen, there was a corn dog cart called Betty's Corn Dogs, and you could get them panko crusted. You could get them with hot Cheetos,
Kind of Korean style corn dogs.
Yes, it was kinda like
interestingly,
that.
in the Swiss Alps.
Yes, and there were all these sauces. Oh,
Yeah.
hands down, best
You
corn
had to
dogs
get
I've
a
ever
corn
had.
dog every day.
I think I either got 3 or 4 corn dogs in like the 3 or 4 days that we were in Lauterbrunnen.
It was required.
It absolutely required. It's probably my favorite picture of me ever is the one you took at me, just like lovingly looking at this corn dog with the Swiss Alps behind me. So that was so fun. And then so we went up to Murren and did this gorgeous little walk down to Gimmelwald, which is this tiny town, and like the views were just
We can't even do it justice.
It was like it wasn't real. We were just
Yeah.
walking around this place like the whole time we were in the Swiss Alps. We're like, this isn't real right now. There's no way that this place exists.
It was by far, and to this day, the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. 100%.
And I think it was a good middle to our trip because it was a soft landing, and then you and I had a lot of fun and chaos, but there was also a lot of pondering and sitting and looking at the views and being like, wow, I cannot believe I'm here right now with you.
Yeah.
There was a lot of just whoa moments.
Yeah. I remember sitting at the little restaurant in Gimmelwald, and we got a glass of wine.
Yeah.
And we were sitting there just looking out at the Swiss Alps in this mountain. And I looked at you and I was like, I am so glad the wolf is not here to see this right now.
Yeah.
It was just so many moments of that too, of like, he did not deserve to be here. And I'm so glad I'm here with you instead. Because this is like the coolest thing I've ever done. And no way in hell he gets to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
Oh, it was so fun.
Yeah. And then in Gimmelwald, remember it was like, there were these little cottages where like literally people lived.
Yeah.
And there were signs like, come in and just like leave. Oh my God.
What just happened?
He just jumped into the door.
Oh, Zelda.
Oh my God.
Like he thought it was.
He thought it was open.
Oh no.
He just swung. It was like a bird like hitting the glass. That's what
Oh, Zelda,
it looked like. Oh my God. Oh my God. I will never be able to unsee that. That is in my head forever.
He's been really hyper.
Zelda, are you okay? Do you have a head injury? Are you concussed?
He'll come back.
Oh my God.
He's just embarrassed.
He just like rocket launched himself into your sliding glass door. Oh my God. Oh my God. I need to recover. Okay. What was I talking about?
It's going to be a bitch to edit.
No, I'm going to keep that in.
Okay.
Funny.
Not the whole thing.
I'm keeping that in.
We'll see.
Okay. So Gimmelwald, there were these cottages with signs outside, and they're like, oh, just come on inside and leave some money and take our cheese and milk and butter. And we just walk into
eggs,
these cottages, and there's just like, it's somebody's house, and they're just
People
out
just
for the
trusting
day in the farms.
community.
Yeah. It was so
just, like,
crazy.
drop some coins and take some fresh goat butter. And
Yeah.
you're like, oh my gosh, this is the cutest
Be on
thing.
your way.
I cannot believe it even existed.
No. It was so...
and there were so many cats.
There were
and
so many
cows.
cats. Yeah.
It was...
And goats. Oh, and sheep. Yeah. Oh, remember the the chamois, I think is what they were called. The little goat creatures.
Oh yeah, and they would hop around. Wouldn't
They were like deer goat hybrids,
and they were tiny.
You were just screaming. You were squealing with joy at the chamois.
If you ever get a chance to go to the Swiss Alps,
highly recommend.
It was so cool. The food was pretty good. It was not nearly as good as Italy.
Yeah.
Like
I tried a traditional roasty.
Oh yes, that was good. We had some fondue.
We had some fondue.
We had some good fondue. Yep. Good cheese.
Okay, and then that same day that we were doing the walk in Gimmelwald, then we're walking back to the cable car, and that's when we met the Snuff Club.
Oh, the Snuff Club.
So Megan and I are like, I don't know, kind of tipsy on a couple glasses of wine that we had while looking at the gorgeous views.
Yeah.
And we're trying to get back to the cable car in time to get back down to Lauterbrunnen. And we get stopped by this group of older men. It was probably like 6 or 7 older men. They stop us and they're like, come sit with us and have a drink. And we're like, we look at each other, we're like, all right. Like we're just kind of
we just were down to do everything.
Oh yeah. We were saying yes to everything.
We were getting invited to stuff like that all the time. Yes. I think it's like 2 women traveling versus a couple.
Yeah.
We
were making friends everywhere. We made friends in Geneva, like just everywhere. And so
people were giving us free stuff.
Yes. And so we sit down with this group of men and they start talking to us and they're telling us where they're all from and asking us and whatever. And I tell them why. And what was so fun too about this whole trip is every time we would meet people, they're like, why are you here? Like whatever. And I would be like, well, we're on my honeymoon right now. And I would tell them kind of the gist of what was going on. So there's this video of one of the guys in the Snuff Club and he pulls up this chair. He's like, so the Snuff Club they have this wooden contraption that has been around in their families for hundreds of years. I don't even know. And it's tobacco.
It was like a ship. Wasn't it made? It was a wooden contraption that looked like a ship, and then they would spin it.
Yeah,
and then
there were like these bristles on it that clean your nose or whatever.
Yeah, communal nose cleaning bristles, which is disturbing.
You put your head in it like a guillotine almost.
Yes,
and you sit your chin, and then they like whack this thing and the snuff, which is like tobacco,
which you and I had never done before.
Never. No, never. And you huff in at the same time that they like whack this thing and the snuff goes in your nose and boom. And then they clean the bristles, in your nose.
The communal nose cleaning bristles.
There's this picture of me with like, my eyes are so bloodshot red and I'm crying.
Everyone was laughing at you.
Yeah, they were all laughing at me. Like I was such a little bitch.
The blonde girls.
Yes. And so there's this video of this guy in the Snuff Club. He's like, this contraption has been in, this club for hundreds of years. And this chair we are dedicating to the Rachel fuck you fiance or whatever. This chair is called the Rachel fuck you fiance chair.
He had a strong accent. He was like, Rachel fuck you fiance chair. Honorary Snuff Club member. Like,
so good.
We have some videos that we'll share of that as well.
Yeah. We made friends with all these nice men. Oh, that guy was in a kilt who was talking, who's saying that. We just hung out with them for like an hour and they were just buying us drinks and we did the snuff one time and felt.
And then one of the dads like helped us get back home.
He was from
and
Ireland,
took us on the cable cars. It was just so many friends everywhere we went.
Yeah,
we would meet people. And they'd share their stories. Like he had a daughter and then he was getting a divorce, I think. We were talking about that.
Yeah.
I was talking about my separation. It just was wild, the amount of connections we were making.
Which I think was also really helping us like process our own stuff to just be going around the world and traveling and meeting all these people who also had their own stories and like sharing our stuff and getting wisdom from them and everything. It's just like really cool.
Yeah. Go travel with your friends.
Yeah. It changed. Like it honestly just really changed everything for us. And we kind of came back with a new perspective. But
and then we went to Lake Como.
Yeah.
It was so magical.
Oh my God. Okay. So Lake Como was our favorite.
Yeah.
We extended our trip because we were having so much fun. If you haven't been to Lake Como, it's at like the very top of Italy, kind of almost bordering Switzerland. It's known to be like very bougie. And it was, but we stayed in Verona. And so I had booked us an Airbnb and our Airbnb host name is Marilena. Oh, and Marilena is just iconic. She picks us up from the train station, first of all. She's the sweetest lady ever. And she's basically like Verena royalty. Like her dad was like the first one to have a car in Verena ever.
I think she was one of the first people ever to have an Airbnb.
She started
Verena.
it. She started it. She like, I think she said she had to like go to court to fight because they were, telling her that she couldn't or shouldn't or whatever. And so she was the first one to even start it. She like owns that town.
Yes.
And we stayed in her little apartment there in town center of Verena.
It overlooked the whole square.
Whole square.
She had cats, and then her little charming Airbnb. She had a portrait of herself painted, holding the cats, which is so like she just was an icon.
She was iconic. The bedspread.
The bedspread was like polar bear themed.
She's oh my god, it was so good.
But she was also like a really strong, independent single woman.
Never been married.
And she'd be like, I've had my boyfriends, but like
I would never sign.
She'd be like, never sign. Yeah. You told her, of course, about your situation, and I told her I was separated.
Yeah. She's like, your fiance's a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you didn't sign. Never sign.
And she just, I think she kind of like adopted me and you because we were like newly single on this Eat, Pray, Love trip. And she just was like, these are my girls.
We saw her basically every day.
We saw her around town. You'd be like, oh my God, Marlene. And she's like, girls. And she told us about this restaurant,
right outside
Albergo del Sol.
Albergo del Sol. Albergo del Sol. I think.
Albergo del Sol.
Yes, we gotta get this right.
We gotta get it. Albergo del Sol.
So we had go there the first night.
We go there the first night, and that restaurant just becomes our like home base.
Yeah.
And the first night I don't think anything remarkable happened the first night. It was just a normal dinner.
Yeah.
But we kept going back to it.
It was the second night we went and ate dinner somewhere else. And then there was a concert in the square. They would have these concerts in the square. So there was like this whole band playing in front of the church and whatever. We're sitting there and we got gelato from the gelato place in the square.
Which we were
also
getting
made friends.
So much gelato.
Yes. Oh yeah. It was 2 gelatos a day mandatory.
Two gelatos a day.
And so we're sitting there after getting gelato, and then Albergo del Sol is like the light's still on and we're kind of like, we kind of want a pizza. And so I walked over there and they recognized it was our friends there, but they recognized me from the day before. And I was like, are you guys closed? Can we get a pizza? And I convinced them they were closed. I convinced them to make us a pizza. And so then we're just eating. So that's kind of when I think it kind of started, because then I think the next night.
For you to convince men to make you food after the kitchen is closed.
Is it?
Well, yeah, at Mulligan's.
Oh, you're so right.
I don't.
It's like it's my secret sauce.
It's your charm. You're like, is the kitchen really closed?
Is it really closed, or can you just turn on that fryer again real quick for me? Make me a corn dog.
So they made us a pizza.
Yeah, and I come out victorious with this pizza, and then
you made friends with
Abdal. So I think it was the next night when Abdal sits down with us.
Yes.
So I think we ended up just there for tiramisu. We just wanted dessert.
We went there every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
So night 3, we end up at this restaurant again, and one of the young waiters takes an interest. I think he was like into me or something. I think it was me.
Oh, he was absolutely into you. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So he sits down and he's trying to convince us that he's 22. And I'm like, no, you're not. No, you're not. And then he finally admits that he's 18.
Yeah.
And still,
But he'd be like, no, I'm 22. I'm 22.
I swear.
You kept like doing the little nose.
Oh, that's why.
Right, yeah.
Oh, I did that to him the night before when I was getting the pizza.
Yeah.
And that's how it happened. That's totally how it happened. Yeah. I do this. I don't know. I do this little nose.
You're like, you have something on your shirt. You get it. And then you flick their nose.
I just do it.
I feel like these men just are so enamored by you because you're so gorgeous and you have this hair. Everywhere we went in Italy, everyone was like, your hair, and my hair.
Well, you too, yeah.
But then you're also so witty and dumb.
I'm so witty and dumb.
You're just so witty and dumb.
I don't give a shit. Like, I just kind of like will fuck with you and then walk away. Yeah.
And then they're just like, wow.
And they're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Just happened? You just touched my nose. And now everything's different.
Well, we did have a really fun night that night. I think that's when the vibe started to vibe with me and
introducing
Focaccia.
That's what we're gonna call him. So guarantee you he's gonna listen to this. So hi, Focaccia. You'll learn why we call him that.
Okay, so we're gonna call him Focaccia.
Yeah,
he is the owner of the restaurant, which is also a hotel.
Correct.
Restaurant hotel, and I think that night, I can't remember exactly what happened, but there was some flirting. Like Abdal, the younger one, was sitting right next to us, but Focaccia was sitting like to the side, kind of chiming in or interjecting, and like there was just some little sparks, and then I got up and I'd pay, and we flirted a little bit, and then it kind of progressed over a couple more days, and we end up extending our trip.
Yep.
And
we tried to stay at Marilena's place, but she had it booked. So then she asked, she was like, my friend owns a hotel. And I don't think we even knew that it was him at the time.
No.
And all of a sudden she's like, okay, you're going to stay at Focaccia's hotel. He has a room for you. And we're like, wait, what? That's a hotel too? Like, we didn't even know.
It was because the vibes have been vibing. I can't remember exactly all the different nights, but we were definitely flirting. And then I think I followed him on Instagram or something, and he followed me back on Instagram. And then at that point it was like, yeah, I have a friend. Okay, you're going to check in with Focaccia. And it was like, it's on.
I think that was that the same day we did the boat? Is the day
yes.
that we like extended our stay, or like things happened?
I think that was the first night. We also got a boat. Yeah. Another friend who owned a winery was also, I think, probably into us. Maybe you.
I think it was you.
I can't remember. It sounds so like
we went to this little alleyway winery.
The Italian men loved us. And it was like either me or Rachel. And like they'd make it pretty clear.
Yeah.
But
the women hated us.
The women hated us.
We had this man in Milan. He literally left his restaurant job, to escort us to Gelato, like a 5-10 minute walk away. Yeah. Like, the men were so kind and sweet to us, which, like, all right, it makes sense. But the women were not.
No,
they hated us.
I
don't know why, but whatever.
All of these men would go out of their way. Like the man who owned the winery, who helped us book the boat. He's like, oh, well, you normally have to book them way in advance, but I have a friend and I'm going to get you a boat.
Yeah, on the best day at the best time.
Yes. And he kept wanting us to come back and visit him in his castle.
Yeah.
We didn't end up doing that.
No, we didn't have time.
No. But there was a moment where we do drive the boat.
So we get this boat, and also the guy giving us the boat gave us his sunscreen because we ran out. It's just another little thing of them being kind to us.
Yeah.
And so we get on this boat with a bottle of warm champagne. And Megan is so confident. She's bragging to Focaccia that morning that she's gonna drive the boat. He's like, oh, who's gonna drive? And she's like, oh, me. And I look at her and I'm like, really? You're gonna drive the boat? Okay.
That's also how we divided labor, because you.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we get on this boat and they're teaching us how to drive it. And Megan is convinced it's going to be her. So she gets behind the wheel, and these two Italian men are watching us like maneuver this boat away from the dock. And Megan pulls on the lever to make it go, and she screams. And I'm like, they're not going to give us this boat, Megan. You have to stay calm. Like, do not scream. And I'm like, do you want to switch? And she's like, yes. And so we switch, and I drive the boat for the rest of the time.
The entire time.
Like a champion, I will say. Like a champion. I crushed driving that boat. I was born for that.
You were born for that boat ride.
I was born to drive a boat in Lake Como, Italy.
I can't describe the euphoria on that boat, honestly. I think that was another one of those moments where
we cried a lot.
We cried a lot this whole trip.
Yeah.
Again, in between all of these like big happy moments, there was plenty of emotional nights.
Yes.
But we, were drunk off of warm champagne and warm rosé. And like, again, one of the most gorgeous views I've ever seen in my life. You and I are just driving this boat in Lake Como, single. I mean, we were just... And I remember
parking and hopping off the boat and swimming and getting back on the
jumping
boat.
In. And do you remember screaming, "We're peaking"?
Yeah.
Like there was a moment where I think you like turned it off, and we were just like at the front of the boat screaming, like arms out, like we are peaking.
Yeah.
We've peaked. This is like, and I think to this day that was maybe when we peaked.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I was driving the boat with my feet at one point.
Yeah.
Just absolutely
slaying. We have some photos we can share.
Yeah.
For sure.
There were definitely people in our DMs like, we thought you were going to end up at the bottom of the lake.
Yeah. A lot of people were worried about our safety.
Yep.
And maybe rightfully so.
But we lived to tell the tale, and no
harm. Oh, and then we had a little photo shoot so that I could send some pictures to Focaccia.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because he knew we were on the boat. Like, that's when the vibes, like, it was really heating up. Mm-hmm. And then you pull in the boat, miraculously.
To be Honest, I may or may not have memory of pulling the boat in and parking it on the dock.
But she did such a good job.
That's what I'm saying. I was born to drive that boat.
You were born to drive that. We do not recommend these actions. No, we're not saying to do this.
We're not. No,
we're not promoting.
We're not promoting. No, we're not. We are promoting we are promoting going on a vacation with your best friend and going to Lake Como, Italy, and driving a boat.
That's what you do on that boat is none of our business.
That's your business. That's your boat business. We're not going to get involved in that.
No,
we're just telling our story and how it went down.
Should we talk about your hemorrhoids?
Yeah, let's talk about your romantic Italian dalliance and my hemorrhoids. Yeah. Let's do that. Okay. Fun. So, I guess this is when we're debuting my hemorrhoids.
I can't.
All right. So, just going to be really vulnerable here for a second. Maybe the most vulnerable I've been yet on this podcast.
I talked about my affair. You can talk about your hemorrhoids.
Oh, yeah. Perfect. Mm-hmm. So, I'm the queen of hemis. And I own it. Yeah, I don't even know where to begin. I'm known among my friends and family for just sometimes, maybe more than sometimes, having an issue with hemorrhoids every once in a while.
Normalize it.
And we're going to normalize it.
We're going to normalize it.
A lot of this happens to men and women alike. It doesn't discriminate.
No.
Hemorrhoids sometimes just hem. And that's just... That's how it goes. And so when I was in Italy, I got one because
you're talking so fast. You're so flustered.
Yeah, because I have a bidet at my home because I spoil and pamper my butthole to try to avoid getting hemorrhoids. But when I travel, obviously the
problem is that
luxury.
you get them like persistently and then it's like chronic, and this can also be genetic as well. Like certain people are more likely to get them than others.
Thank you.
They're very painful. They're very normal.
Thank
you. A
you.
lot of people get them.
Thank you.
And it's just like, unfortunately, a persistent problem for you, especially when we are traveling abroad, different foods. You don't have your bidet.
No.
And near the end of the trip, after we had been gone for about 2 weeks, that's when the hemis were really hemming.
They were hemming.
And
they were hemming hard. They
this
were
was
hemming
not-
and hawing.
They were hemming and hawing, and this is not the kind of thing you'd see on Instagram, folks. Like,
No.
I know our vacation looked picturesque, but there was a moment when we were on one of those islands around Lake Como, and
We were in Menagio.
Menagio.
I was wearing my cute little green set.
Cute little green
I was
set.
so cute.
But you were in so much
I
pain.
was in so much pain.
You couldn't even walk.
I couldn't. No, because I was. So that's the problem too. I was wearing a thong because that's what we do, and
That's what we do. That's what you do in Whoretown.
oh god, the hemi was just ripe for the plugging. My thong was thonging, the hemi was hemming, and there was just a lot of friction and not the good kind. And we're walking around Menagio, and this is after.
I can't believe Fakasha is going to listen to this.
Hi, Fakasha. You're learning a lot about me today and everyone else. We left Menagio early. We went back on the ferry, and I was like, "This is excruciating. I can't do it."
Because we kept looking for suppositories in the pharmacies.
Oh my god,
the pharmacias.
They were out of them. And so we go back.
Apparently, they don't get hemorrhoids in Italy. Like,
I don't know how with all the gelato and pizza.
Exactly.
Oh my god, it's a hemorrhoid
it should
playground.
We take the ferry back to Varenna, and you immediately have to go.
I go to the room and I send you. I'm like, please, for the love of God, will you go to this pharmacy?
Because you need to go like lay down and like I think take a bath or something.
I got in the shower.
Yeah.
I was like, I need to.
It was bad. It had
exist.
potential to ruin the rest of the trip, honestly, because you were in so much pain.
Yeah.
And we laugh about it now, but it was a pretty serious situation.
It was really.
And I
painful.
just remember praying like, please let there be anal suppositories.
Lord, please come through for this woman's butthole right now.
And they had them.
By the grace of God.
By the grace of
They
God,
had them.
the pharmacy.
This was like the third or fourth pharmacy we had tried in a couple days.
So
too.
like the odds were low, and yet she persisted.
Yeah.
And then you were okay. We were going to be okay.
We were going to be okay.
I think that was the night we went to the disco.
No, we went to the disco the night of the boat.
Okay, this is
Because
a
we
little.
got off the boat and then we like got home.
Oh, yeah.
We got gelato and then we went back to the room. We like laid down and like took a little tipsy nap. And then we woke up and we're like, we got to go to the disco with our lake hair. Remember that? We like barely even got ready.
Okay, this is a little out of order.
Yeah.
Backing up a bit, I think, to the first night I had with Focaccia.
Okay, yeah. Let's back up.
I don't remember what we did that night, but... Oh, and that's when we met our Scottish friends, Emma
and Eddie. Shout out.
And we had this... it was such a wild night where it was like an Italian billionaire. Someone was reading our tarot cards, like a drag queen reading our tarot cards.
In the square in Verona, like it's midnight.
It's midnight or later. We're having like the last pizza of the night. We're all drinking. That we meet this singer who's traveling with her fiance. Like this kind of motley crew of people from all over the world, and we're getting our tarot read, and we're just talking about our lives and laughing. And then this was the night when I think I was sitting next to Focaccia. We were all drinking. Everybody started to go to bed one by one, and we're also staying in Focaccia's hotel at this point. And so then at one point you were like, I'm going to go to bed. And I'm like, okay,
bye.
But it was like, it was nice that we had hung out with this person for several days and we kind of knew it wasn't like a sketchy situation by any means.
Oh no.
And everybody went to bed and Focaccia was like, do you want some more wine? And I was like, yes.
I'd love some.
I'd love some. And he gets a bottle and then a couple glasses and we go on a little walk, like a little 1 a.m. walk through the streets of
to my
Verona.
secret beach where I would go every morning and sit on my little castle wall.
Yes. He takes me to this little beach by the lake and we're like strolling along, just chatting. I didn't mention, but like this guy's very cute. Like, yeah, he's very, very Italian dreamy. And it just felt like a movie, honestly. I've never had a moment like that, but I felt
it was like a Lizzie McGuire moment.
It was a Lizzie McGuire moment. And we go to the beach and we're drinking and we're talking. We start kissing and it was very romantic. And we had a very nice night together. It was lovely. And then the next day is that's when we did the boat. And then Marlena was like, oh, do you want to go to the disco with me?
Yeah. Oh, because Marilena is like a salsa bachata
queen. And we had no idea what the disco meant.
Nope.
We just were like,
yes.
We were just saying yes to everything.
We do want to go to the disco.
So we go to the disco with...
And Tanya came too from the gelato shop. And she's from Ukraine.
We met someone from the Ukraine. We also didn't mention that the boy at the gelato shop had a major crush on you.
He was so cute.
He was so cute.
But he was younger.
He was pretty young.
Like 24 or something.
Yeah.
But he was so cute.
He was cute. So we go drive in Marlena's car to the disco. And it was all, I think, bachata dancing. Which you and I are not the most graceful when it comes to partner dancing.
This disco is so funny.
Like we just didn't know what to expect. But everyone is of a certain age. And we were definitely on the younger side.
The way you just said that was so funny.
You and I were like, oh.
It was a lot of older men. And Marilena, for lack of a better word, was just pimping us out to all these Italian men.
She was pimping us out. She'd be like, come dance with my friends. Come dance with my friends. I'm like, oh, like, you girls got it.
Because she knew them all. Because she goes there every weekend.
Yes. And as soon as you'd finish one dance with one man, another would be in line. And it was just like... It was a lot of work. It was hot.
Because we don't know how to bachata. So we're like, okay, we're learning the steps. We're learning their body. We're learning our body. We're flowing.
I can't do an Italian accent. Oh my God.
Don't try. we're like, all right, we're moving and grooving, like whatever. And then as soon as you finally get your groove, the song's over and Marlena's passing you to a new man.
Yes.
And this just went on.
And some of the men were sweatier than others.
Oh, so sweaty.
Some of them were...
The sweat was sweating.
Some of them needed to...
The sweat that those men swote.
The sweat that we swote.
The sweat that we swote as well.
Yes.
And with our lake hair. And we were still
like
riding the drunk
yes.
from the boat.
Just continuing at that point. But it was a really fun, chaotic night.
It was so fun. I'm so glad we went to the disco.
We ended up going home and we were also starving.
Yeah.
So I messaged Focaccia on Instagram and I was like, can you please make us a pizza?
Yeah, pizza waiting.
So at that point, like they were our buddies. Like it was just, it kind of like every night the staff would sit outside and they would drink and they'd have like an employee meal and it would be really late. And so we were just a part of that.
It was like we lived there.
Yeah.
The after a few days of being there and starting to make all these friends and like know everybody in town and know where everything was and explore and whatever, it really just felt like we lived there. So I think we extended our trip because it was also going to be really hot in Milan, and we're like, we don't need that many days in Milan. We'd rather be here.
Yeah.
This is where we live now. This is home.
Oh, it was so magical. And then
we
had another really nice night, me and Focaccia, and gosh, he's so romantic. Like, I had these Italian men, and it was just this like kind of little sad moment of like, I don't want to say goodbye. Like, when am I going to see you again? And I was like, oh, I don't. Like, I'm going through so much.
Well, it was the next morning after. When did the focaccia bread actually happen?
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Okay, sorry. We're all over the place in this story, but after the first night, and I think this was the day of the boat, but after the first night, Focaccia and I spent the night together, the next day, we're getting lunch and we're getting salad or whatever.
At the restaurant.
At the restaurant. We're getting lunch at the restaurant. And I see Focaccia. All of the employees know. And everyone's like, ooh. Like, it's just this kind of like funny, everybody knows what happened. And then the waiter comes out with a heart-shaped focaccia that the focaccia... That's funny. That Focaccia had the cook made for me.
And that's why we call him that.
Yes, that's why we decided that was his name.
But it was a picture of it.
We have a picture of it. It was just like, so freaking romantic of like, cute. This man made me Focaccia in the shape of a heart. It was so good. And it had these tomatoes on it and this cheese. So you and I shared my love Focaccia.
Yeah. Well, Celine Dion was playing on Blast.
Yes.
I don't know.
There were so many little moments like that where it was like,
I love Celine Dion.
Oh yeah, we love Celine Dion in the pod.
Yeah.
So then back up to the next night, the second night that we had with each other. I think it was like 4 a.m. or something by the time I went back to the room with you, but it was like this really sad moment of we didn't say goodbye because he's like, I don't know if I'm going to see you again, or I don't know if we should say goodbye or not. And gosh, the stars weren't really aligned for it to, I think, be anything really serious. However, like that little whirlwind of a romance, I think was like so needed for me. And it meant a lot to me at that time. And then we have this really sweet romantic night. And then you and I leave the next day and he's not there to say goodbye in the morning. Because
that's right.
I think it was just...
It's too hard. I forgot about that.
It was too hard. Oh, he's so romantic. But then he and I are texting a lot. And we message a lot on Instagram. There was talks of maybe like him visiting me at one point. I think there's just so much other stuff going on in my life at the time. And the separation and all of this other stuff. Like the stars just weren't aligned. But it was still a really sweet moment. And I still keep in touch with him time to time. We love Focaccia.
Yeah, we love Focaccia. Well, and we keep sending all our friends his way too. So, So since we've been there, my boss went there like a month later. Yes. And so I sent her to the restaurant and she called me and we you weren't there, but I talked to her and Focaccia on the phone. She sent pictures. And then my hairdresser, Jill, shout out, and her husband, Jim, they just went a couple weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
I don't know, send you that picture?
No.
They took a picture with Focaccia.
Oh, they did?
Yeah. And then there was somebody else too.
Nicole's friends. We sent. Yeah.
I feel like there was another person I'm forgetting. We just keep sending.
We sent everyone there.
We just send everyone
it's like our second home.
Yeah. And Jill, so I just got my hair done yesterday. She was telling me like, we are so glad you told us to stay in Verona because everybody talks about Bellagio, but like we kind of thought it was a little bit overrated.
Yeah.
So we're so glad we stayed in Verona instead of Bellagio.
Yes.
And she was like, it felt like we lived there. Like
Verona is the place to be.
Yeah. 100%.
So it was really sweet. And then we had basically one day in Milan at that point. So
it was like 24 hours in Milan.
Excuse me, 24 hours in Milan. We had a lot of fun. We did a lot of stuff. We saw the Duomo. You did a line dance with some Italian men in front of the Duomo at night.
You're so right. That was so magical. So that was the time. So we went to dinner and then, so our last night in Milan, we go to dinner. Or maybe it was I think it was the second. It was the first day. We had like 2 days in Milan, basically, kind of day and a half. So our first night in Milan, we go to this dinner and you and I over a bottle of wine start talking about the podcast.
Yeah.
We start talking about, should we do a podcast?
Yeah.
And we were like, we have so much to talk about. Our story's so cool. Like that's kind of when the idea of the podcast was born, which is cool. And then after dinner, we're like, we want some gelato. So then we walk around to all these different gelato places that we're seeing on Apple Maps. Yeah. And every time we got to one, it was closed, and it was like 9:00. So it was really weird that they were closed. And so then this man who works in this restaurant sees us struggling and comes outside and is like, what are you looking for? How can I help? And we're like, gelato. And he's like, follow me. And he was just like Moses leading us to the promised land. Gelato Moses. Gelato Moses. Yes. Truly. So yeah, he led us to gelato, and then we're standing outside the Duomo, which is this gorgeous just cathedral, and eating our gelato, and there's this guy playing music there with a crowd, and we're dancing, and then all of a sudden this Italian man comes up to me who speaks no English, and he's just like starts teaching me how to do the steps to some dance that he's like, I don't know what it is. And then other people started joining in, and there was this whole line of us doing this dance in front of the Duomo, and I was terrible at it.
You were awful.
I was in ecstasy though. It was so fun. I'm just dancing with all these Italians in front of the Duomo, and I look like a fool, but I don't care. Yeah. It was so fun.
It was a sweet moment. And then one of our most special moment in Milan was when after we went to the Duomo, we got lunch and just Aperol Spritz, and we meet, do you remember their
Priscilla
names?
and Mike.
Priscilla and Mike.
And so you had said before we even went on Cousinmoon, you had said, I picture myself figuring out what I want to do with my marriage. Do I want to stay in it? Do I want to not? I picture myself deciding what to do over an Aperol Spritz on this trip.
I kept romanticizing this moment.
Yeah.
And I remember talking about it even in therapy, and my therapist would be like, that's great. Don't put that pressure that you're going to decide what you're going to do with an Aperol Spritz. Like, you never know. But I still just had this moment. And we have this really meaningful conversation with Priscilla and Mike.
People we just happened to sit next to. We had got sat at a different table, and then we asked to move to be under the misters.
Yes.
So we just happened to get seated next to this couple with their daughter.
And they were so kind, so generous.
They went on the same trip as us, but in reverse. The exact same places. So we were giving them all
Geneva. I told her all about focaccia. And I was like, you need to go to Verona and get a boat. All of these things. You told them about the wolf and your story. I told them about my story. And that I think that was the first time when Priscilla was like, what are you going to do? Are you going to try to get back together? Or are you going to stay separated? And I was like, I don't know. And then she just really gave us some good advice. And she
started talking about her own story.
She started, and it was really similar to mine.
Yes.
And she'd even mentioned that she had an affair in the past as well. And then she's like, everything changed when I met Mike. And
she even said she was 29. Like at this scene when you were 29 too.
She's like, I didn't, like I got married again, or I can't remember if it was her second marriage or first marriage.
It was her second, I think.
I think so. I just remember it was a similar story to mine, but then when everything changed when she met Mike, and they have these 2 beautiful children now, and she's like, it just felt right. And that temptation never existed for me again. And we have such this beautiful life together, and it doesn't need to be on anyone's timeline. It was like they started in their 30s, and it was just this like,
and they were such a power couple. Like
they were these like wealthy real estate agents. I mean, honestly, like you and I were just like, that's who we want to be when we grow up. Oh my gosh. Like, and then they paid for our meal.
Yeah.
And we chatted for probably like an hour or something. Like we just had a really meaningful connection. And then they got up and left. And then you and I just look at each other.
And we just both break down.
We're both crying.
We're like, that was such a divine conversation. Like this was my takeaway. And I know this was your takeaway. Like we had this moment of like, oh my gosh, that was absolutely a conversation that was supposed to be had. We were supposed to meet them. And then you say
that was the Aperol Spritz moment where I knew that getting a divorce was going to be right for me at that point. And even just saying it, because up at that, I had been separated for a few months at that point. And then I think I was leaning towards that, but it was so hard still to even say it or come to that conclusion. But especially after just this whirlwind of a trip, the experience with focaccia, and then this couple, it just was like, oh wow, I really do know all of a sudden. And then we were just crying with our Aperol Spritz in front of the Duomo in Milan
on our very last day.
It was a wild, beautiful moment.
Yeah.
And that was
Basically concludes Cousinmoon.
Cousinmoon. Pretty quickly after getting back is when I met up with my ex to have that conversation. And I still sat with that decision. I still was like, does this feel right? Like I sat with it for another week or two to make sure. I didn't want to rush into it, but I knew. And I was so scared to have that conversation, of course. And we had our check-in coming up, my ex and I. And so, it was a really hard conversation. Ironically, it ended up being on our 7-year wedding anniversary.
That's right. Oof, that's right. I forgot about that.
Because it was the only day that he and I had available. And yeah, not much else to say other than it was really hard for the both of us. I think especially him, because I know that he was hoping for a different answer. But over time, I think at that moment, there was just still so much pain and hurt and not realizing why and is this actually the best thing for the both of us. But I think even since that moment and conversations that he and I have had since then, like it's been important for us and it's like, and especially me, to stay on good terms and to interact with each other with love and understanding, because he still was my best friend and I still have so much love for him. And I think he started to realize it was the best thing for the both of us as well, and started to come to terms with that we both agree that we don't regret it or regret our relationship or what we had, and that we just grew and weren't right for each other anymore. But that doesn't mean that we weren't right for each other for all the years that we did. Yeah, for all the years that we did have. And pretty quickly after telling him I wanted to move forward with the divorce, we took a beat and we waited a while before we actually started the divorce processing, the filing. There's so much paperwork. It's really complicated, and splitting the finances and having those discussions. But that's when I also knew I needed to move, because up until that point, I had been living in LA in the apartment that he and I shared together, and deciding that I wanted to move forward with a divorce, I just immediately was like, I need my own space. I kind of need a new clean break. And that's when I moved around the corner from you, which was in October. October 13th, Friday the 13th.
And I scared the shit out of you.
You scared the shit out of me. You created this weird little gremlin monster thing and hid it in my closet.
It was such a good prank.
That seems like yesterday, but also so long ago.
I know.
I moved into a new apartment around the corner from you, and it has been such a joy. Still, of course, ups and downs and a lot of hard moments processing the relationship ending. However, I've made so many new friends, and it just feels so right to be here at this time, especially around the corner from you. And it's also when we started our podcast, and we've had so much happen in the last even 6 months. Which is why we've talked like I don't think we're ever going to run out of stuff to talk about on this podcast of things that we have learned going through this phase together. But it's been challenging, but such a joy to go on this like living on my own. And that's why I was able to have everything pink, and I got a pink couch. I started cosplaying again. That's also when I was more public on the internet. That's when when I moved, people were like, oh, okay, they're not together anymore, because they could see that I wasn't moving with my ex. And then I started my own cosplay account, Cosplay with Meg. Follow me on Instagram, which was really scary but so fun. At first, I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep cosplaying or not, if that was going to be too painful, because it was something for me and him. But it was very affirming of, I really like that on my own. And I went to my very first convention in December, LA Comic Con, and I went completely by myself, which was terrifying, but a very gratifying experience. And since then I've been to another con myself, and I'm going to more this summer. And yeah, I think that's it for that chapter of kind of growth during that separation phase, making the decision to move forward with the divorce, all of those conversations, the challenges and healing with it, and Cousinmoon, which I absolutely was the trip that needed to happen. We got matching tattoos.
We did. Yeah, we did.
Which was your very first tattoo.
My very first tattoo.
But it's a moon for cousins, or moon for Cousinmoon, and then we have the 2 little stars that represent ourselves. So a very simple tattoo, but also just such an impactful trip that we had
to commemorate it. And then the
to.
randomest thing too is we scheduled it, and then we're sitting there like signing the waiver, and I'm putting the date, and I realize, oh, September 30th. This was the day I was supposed to get married the first time.
Wild. I forgot about that.
That's the day we got that tattoo.
Yeah.
So weird. It all comes like full circle date wise for us for some reason. Like, do you want to talk about texting your ex on the date, like the separation day, to like tell him you're going to talk about this on the podcast?
Speaking of dates, like, telling him I want the divorce on our wedding anniversary. And then my ex does know about this podcast. It was important to me that he wouldn't be blindsided by it, that he knew that I was going to tell the whole story, that I was going to do it in a way that really tries to honor us both. But the day that I texted him to tell him, hey, I'm going to talk about the affair publicly, was 1 year later to the date of when I originally told him about the affair. So it was, I didn't plan it that way.
No.
It just happened that way, that it was like 1 year ago, I told him, and a year later is when I had the conversation I was going to tell the world.
Yeah.
And it felt even more like this was the right decision in this atonement way, or this, I'm going to take this and what I learned this year and what I did a year ago, and I want to share that and release some of that shame and help others. And it's just this like beautiful year later come around now and just sharing the story publicly.
So
and
cool.
I'm sure we're going to continue having weird date things because that always happens with us.
It keeps happening. Yeah.
Your wedding date, your second wedding date was my dating anniversary with my ex.
July 28th.
Yes. That was when he and I started dating.
So weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's it.
And that's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Any closing thoughts from you or me?
Go drive a boat in Lake Como, man.
Go drive a boat in Lake Como. Or
with your bestie.
If you feel like you need to make a big decision or take a break, travel if you can. I know it's not accessible for everyone. And whether that is Lake Como or if it's driving
30 minutes away for a weekend.
Yes. I think getting out of your daily routine and getting perspective and engaging with people from different environments, different cultures, backgrounds, it just gets you out of your head and helps you, I think, see your situation clearer when you come back.
It's so true. You find yourself when you get lost in other places. Ooh, that was a bar.
Spitting bars, Thelonious.
Yeah, I don't know. Go get lost a little bit.
Yeah. Get lost to get found.
Get lost in the sauce. All right. Anything else? I think we can wrap it.
I think that's
a wrap on Megan's story part 2.
Yeah.
And Cousinmoon, the Cousinmoon lore.
Can't wait to share some more photos and videos of it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, keep an eye on Instagram. We're going to post stuff. We're going to post a lot about Cousinmoon because, oh man, the content's so good. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to us anywhere that you listen to podcasts. It really helps. And share this podcast with somebody who you feel like it could help.
Yeah, please do. And please help spread the word.
Yeah, please. Word of mouth is great. And follow us on Instagram and TikTok at the.traumedy.show.
Bye.
We love you. Bye.
Love you.